Hi everyone. Today we are reading Joshua 19, 20, and 21. For the last few days, we've been reading about the division of the land west of the Jordan River. The boundaries and cities were described for Judah, Ephraim, Benjamin, and the half-tribe of Manasseh that didn't receive theirs east of the Jordan. Now in chapter 19, we see a description of the land for the remaining 6 tribes: Simeon, Zebulun, Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and Dan. God was very clear that they had to select the land by casting lots. This was a process involving luck or chance, kind of similar to what we might do today by flipping a coin or playing rock, paper, scissors. But I believe that it was not luck governing the outcome here. Proverbs 16 verse 33 says, "The lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord." I believe God was directing the outcomes and directly choosing where each tribe would be located through this process. The first lot was cast to Simeon. Simeon had no boundary description, but only cities were listed here because they were contained within Judah. All right, so they were given a selection of the cities and towns from Judah because Judah had more land than they could use, and they had people, I guess. And so Simeon was selected, was given cities within Judah. Zebulun was next. That was surrounded by 4 other tribes in the north. Issachar was between Zebulun and the Jordan River. Asher and Naphtali were the northernmost tribes, with Asher on the coast and Naphtali inland to the east of Asher. Dan receives the last lot. Its boundaries are not described here. It's the only one other than Simeon that didn't have boundaries discussed. It just had cities, and that's probably because it was surrounded by Judah, Ephraim, and Benjamin, and their boundaries were already described elsewhere. There is mention of the people of Dan attacking a city, Leshem, which is a city in Naphtali, and then renaming it Dan and settling there. This is actually something that occurs years later and is recorded in Judges chapter 18. After everyone else receives their inheritance, all the tribes, Joshua chose the city of Timnath-Serah in Ephraim. He, like Caleb, could have chosen his land first, but he decided to wait and choose last. He chose land from his own tribe instead of a better piece of land somewhere else, and he even chose a city that needed to be rebuilt. It says that he rebuilt the city. It wasn't even big enough to make the map. In chapter 20, the cities of refuge are set aside for those who kill someone accidentally as a place to flee for safety. These cities are Kadesh in Naphtali, Shechem in Ephraim, Hebron in Judah, Bezer in Reuben, Ramoth in Gad, and Golan in Manasseh. I find it interesting here that it says the manslayer could not be pursued into these cities because he struck his neighbor unknowingly and did not hate him in the past. It's this hatred that's important. Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, "You have heard it said, whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment." Also, 1 John 3:15 says, "Everyone who hates his brother is a murderer." In God's eyes, you can be a murderer without actually killing someone if you hate them. It's the hatred that makes someone a murderer in both the Old and New Testament. In chapter 21, the Levites are given their cities from among the other 12 tribes. Remember, the Levites don't get their own land. They have the Lord and the offerings and the sacrifices as their inheritance, so they're given cities within the other 12 tribes. One of the cities given to the descendants of Aaron was the city Hebron in Judah. This is at least the 3rd time Hebron is mentioned in the distribution of lands. We just saw that it was one of the 6 cities of refuge. And a few chapters ago, it was selected by Caleb as his inheritance. In fact, all of the 6 cities of refuge were given to the Levites. I believe this is because the Levites had to be in those cities in order to judge the manslayers when they arrived. And chapter 21 concludes by proclaiming God's faithfulness. It says, "The Lord gave to Israel all the land that he swore to give to their fathers. Not one word of all the good promises that the Lord had made to the house of Israel had failed. All came to pass." This fulfilled everything God had told Abraham hundreds of years before and had promised to Moses and Joshua before entering the land. The scriptures are filled with God's promises to his children, including us as Christians. We can rely on God and trust these promises. God is faithful.